Okay, so today's dissection we're going to look at the cow's eyeball, and we're going to start off with some of the external anatomy. In the very front of the eye you see this clear covering here. This is your cornea. The outer black layer here around your cornea is referred to as the structure as the iris. Then we have the white layer on the outside of the iris, kind of all around the eyeball really here. This is your sclera, which you can actually see in your eyeball as well. It's the white outer covering, it's a protective layer. Moving to the back of the eye, or the posterior side, you see this cord structure sticking out of the back. That's your optic nerve, which is attached to your retina. Then we see some brown kind of tissue here and some other white large tissue all around the back of the eye. This is just muscle and some fatty tissue around the back of the eye. We're going to start off the dissection today. The first step is going to be actually to cut some of this material away, and don't be scared that you're going to puncture the eyeball or hurt the eyeball. We just want to get some of this fatty tissue away from the eyeball. Okay, just like so, we're going to cut some of that tissue away just to free up some space. Okay, getting rid of all this muscle tissue. Careful not to cut the optic nerve, obviously. Okay, so once we have all that tissue cut away, that should just about cover it. We actually want to get inside the eyeball. Okay, so in order to do that, what we want to do is we want to start off and we want to puncture a hole in the cross-section part of the eyeball. So we want to kind of take our scissors, and we're going to take the blunt end of our scissors, and we're going to very gently just get a hole inside of the eye. Okay, once we have a punctured hole inside the eye, you're going to insert your scissors into that hole, and you're going to cut a cross-sectional area right of the eyeball. Okay, and as you'll notice, there's going to be some jelly, kind of gel-like substance coming out of the eye. That's a bit of the vitreous humor inside, which keeps the shape of the eyeball. Okay, so we're going to keep cutting it, trying to keep it as straight as possible. Okay, we're just about through here. Okay, so now that you made your cross-sectional cut through the middle of the eyeball, we're going to open it up, and we have it separated into the anterior part and the posterior part. We're going to open it up into two halves now, and we're going to start looking at the posterior part, the back of the eye. I know it's the back of the eye because we have our optic nerve here, which is attached to the posterior part. Flip you around to the front of the kind of inside, what it looks like. And if you notice, there's kind of this beige, kind of brownish substance covered on the very back of the eyeball. And you can kind of scrape it all into one little area here. And this actually beige surface that covered the back of the eye, that's your retina. It's a film-like surface which produces the images where light rays are sent on the back of the eye. Behind the retina, you see this kind of shiny illuminated surface here. This is actually referred to as the tapetum, and this isn't present in human eyeballs. It's actually only in animals. And if you've ever seen a cat when driving at night, their eyes light or glow, well, this is kind of the reason. It's this surface is tapetum. And you can actually kind of peel this a little bit away too, but this is only in animals again, and this is kind of why their eyes light up at night when light gets shined into them. Okay, so we have the retina and the tapetum in the back of the eye along with our optic nerve, and you can kind of see where I scrape this retina together in one point. That's where the optic nerve is attached to the retina, and where the optic nerve is attached to the retina, that's what we refer to as your blind spot, because no messages or signals are picked up in this specific point. Okay, moving to the front of the eyeball, you'll kind of notice that there's all kinds of jelly inside of there with kind of a hard rock surface right in the middle. Well, I'm going to take that out, and I'm just going to use my probe here to kind of scoop some of it out. And you'll notice the lens will pop out first, and I know it's a convex lens because it's a little bit thicker in the middle and thinner on the edges. So I'm going to take this lens and I'm going to cut that open, and you'll notice that it's kind of has a clear substance in the middle there, so light rays can refract through there, and with a convex lens they'll converge, so they come together as they pass through. Coming back to the front of my eyeball, the anterior portion, there's still that jelly-like substance inside the eye, and I'm going to just actually take my finger with my gloves on and just kind of scrape some of that out. There we go, around to our tray. Okay, and that jelly-like substance is called vitreous humor. In front of the eye we have our cornea, which is the clear front surface, which is the protective covering of the front of the eye. We have that outer black surface, which is the iris, the outer iris, and then this white outer surface, which is our sclera, which is another protective covering of the eye. Okay, so we have our anterior outside part, cornea, iris, sclera. If I flip you over into the inside looking, you can see the hole directly in the middle of the eyeball, and that is your pupil. Okay, I'll just try to move my hands here so we can see. You see that? Okay, the hole directly in the middle is your pupil. As with the layer around it, I don't know if you can see or not, but there's two constricting rings, and those two rings are the iris, which control the size of the hole of the pupil when you want to adjust to different lightings. Okay, so to review some of the structures in the front of the eye, we have the cornea, iris, sclera on the outside. Moving to the inside, we have the pupil, which is the opening, and then the iris and these different muscle rings that open and close the different sides of the pupils. And if you take a look at your jelly here, your vitreous humor, you can actually take this and put it on top of a piece of newspaper or a piece of writing, and you'll notice that it actually magnifies the image and light rays reflect through that jelly as well. Okay, and again, this vitreous humor keeps the shape of the eyeball and aids in refraction of light rays. Okay, so I hope you've learned some things about the different structures and functions of the eyes today. That is kind of the process of the dissection. And remember, the biggest thing here is having respect for the eyeball and using caution when using these different materials.